that terminal illness is a very bad category. Um, you know, not to be like sophomoric about it, but everybody's terminally ill. It's just some people are, more aware of the particular thing they might die from others, but we're all heading in exactly the same direction. We don't like to believe that, of course, um, but we are. The second thing is, but the problem, there are special problems with people who are terminally ill. They're not listed as one of the vulnerable populations, and that is a problem. That, you know, if if when women become pregnant, they become vulnerable. Certainly, when people become terminally ill, they become more vulnerable. Um, and it's a population that is easy to exploit. And this goes to the therapeutic um, misconception. And that is, when you're terminally ill, you're desperate. And so you'll do pretty much everything. So I don't know that it's so much. So we focus, I think, too much on the consent part of it, which I think George was doing when he made that comment. Can people in that circumstance give consent? And certainly their consent isn't that free. So he's referring to, I think, Christian Bernard's comment, the guy who did the heart transplant, that, when you come to the point where you needed a heart transplant, you were like someone in a jungle being chased by lions, and your choice was to dive into a river of alligators. And what he said is, it's no choice. It is a choice. It's just not a very good choice, but it's not a no choice. Um, but his point, of course, is that you don't have many good choices to make, and desperation may make you lead to a bad choice. The burden, though, I think, should not be on the terminally ill person, the burden should be on researchers who want to use that person for something to show that there's really something good that may come out of it. We're not just futzing around. And one of the things you see is the reverse, that a lot of people have less regard for the well-being of terminally ill people because they're going to be dead soon. And so the thought is, you can't hurt them, right? Since they're going to be dead soon anyway. So that this is a great population to do research on. And it's not just people who are medically terminally ill. There are people who think, if you're going to execute people, you might as well do stuff to them, in the criminal context, you might as well do stuff to them that you couldn't otherwise do to anybody else, right? Why waste that resource of people who will soon be dead? Um, and so So the question becomes the responsibility of investigators and people who fund investigations about when is it appropriate to actually approach a terminally ill person because they are so vulnerable. So research protection, has to do with rights um, and welfare. And the less people are able to consent, the more vulnerable they are, the more we're obliged to take care of their welfare, right? That's the balance. Um, and um, and that's the part with terminally ill people, especially since they're often that the evidence that we've done anything useful for terminally ill people is essentially not there. That is, terminally ill people, the thought that we're going to cure them of their cancer or their stroke or whatever. Um, there isn't much in the way of successes in doing that, particularly true of people with advanced cancers. And so we create new forms of successes in order to validate that. Oh, look, we did this to these people and they lived a month longer. And that's considered a success. That'll get you a front page on the New York Times that, you have a drug that extends, prostate cancer sufferer's life by a month. Um, so George focused on consent. You can't get their consent. I would focus on the use of them by investigators and by others for their own good as opposed to the good of the person.